Air-Clips.com.
Welcome to part 2 of our fantastic film on a science flight mission aboard NASA's and DLR's Boeing 747SP airborne telescope called SOFIA. If you haven't watched part number 1, make sure to do that first and just click the link seen down here. Otherwise, welcome again aboard and enjoy part 2 of this once-in-a-lifetime experience. Welcome to AirClips.com.
There we go.
Yeah, it helps us for the long nights to have a little brightness once there's not much to see out front.
Jim has more time in this airplane than anyone else, any pilot.
Wow.
We have a flight engineer who has more overall time.
And Charlie has the most downstairs, our mission director.
Amazing. So where did you fly before then?
So I just happened to be, I was one of the first pilots when we started flying science missions, and I've continued flying it all along. So just luck of the draw.
Super.
This is my night job. My day job, I was hired to fly F-18s and F-15s.
Wow, and that's also with NASA?
Yes.
Super nice.
We're doing a lot of supersonic research.
So I think if I can catch you for a bit of an interview later during the flight, then I have a couple of questions.
Okay. I can easily make up a couple answers.
Thank you.
FE mission.
Go ahead.
We are ready to open the URD downstairs.
I am on 606.
I'm on 606 with you. Enable disable switch in disable.
We're in disabled.
And rotor switch in close.
We're enclosed.
Okay, next page. URDCO is verified deflated. So step 4, enable disable switch to enable.
I am in enabled.
Okay, I'm waiting for data downstairs.
I've got data up here.
And good data downstairs. That takes us down to step 8. CDDS rotor switch to reset.
I am in reset.
I see reset, waiting 5. CDDS rotor switch to close. Alright, this is
I am in close.
I see close, waiting 5. CDDS rotor switch to open.
I am in open.
I see open, waiting for motion.
I've got a door open light and showing movement.
Good motion downstairs, waiting for full open. Okay, I show motion stop, entering the AA set point down here. And that is in. Step 12, CDDS rotor switch to track.
I am in track.
Good tracking. I will enter the offset, and that'll be checklist complete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good news.
Did you guys feel it when the door opened? We didn't.
2195.
I was expecting to feel nothing because everybody told us you would feel nothing, but I felt minimal lateral, pure imagination probably.
We just ask the flight engineer if it's open or closed, because we can't tell. So we filed a flight plan that is very close to, but not exactly what they need. So we're good with air traffic control, but then when you hear them say left, 1 degree left or 1 degree right, that's Liz tweaking the headings of the telescopes just in the right direction. So yeah, the line here is what we filed, which is just a bunch of straight segments that approximates a curved path. We're actually going to fly a more of a curved path.
And sometimes the winds are a little different than they planned, and so they have to adjust for that.
And then we drift sometimes away left or right of what we planned. But as long as we stay close, it's okay.
So
That's
we're
good.
off of your plan, but we're on our plan.
And we are clear to deviate up to either side, 20 nautical miles.
Excellent. Thanks.
And I'm accepting.
Thank you.
You're probably familiar with CPDLC or various similar data links,
Yep, we are.
so we can send text messages instead of voice.
And there was this like alarm bell sound, right?
That just tells us something's coming in.
Just a message.
Yeah. When we first started flying science missions, we did not have this system, and we would be out over the ocean making verbal position reports on the radio at every point that we crossed. And with HF, it's sometimes hit or miss. You'd be way out there, you may or may not be able to reach them. So we'd spend a lot of time on the radio trying to call San Francisco radio, telling them what we're doing. Much better to have the new modern equipment.
When was it upgraded?
I think it was about 5 years ago.
Yeah, the CPDLC. We got that after we got the glass cockpit. The glass cockpit was 2013, 2012, I think.
Sounds right. It was before I got here.
Yeah. We flew for about a year with all the old stuff, and then we got the new cockpit. But the
How long did that take to put in?
The airplane was down for almost the entire year.
Really?
Hey, what was the main reason for putting in a glass cockpit?
Mainly because the old instruments were no longer supportable. If they broke, it was tough to get parts. Lufthansa's done all the major maintenance through the years, so we've made a number of trips over to Hamburg.
My hometown. I enjoyed
It's
watching
nice
you.
there.
Glad you liked it.
And every time we go to the miniature wonderland,
Oh yeah,
downtown.
you can't miss out on that one, huh?
been there at least 4 times.
It's so good, I agree.
It's surprising, when you read about it, you think, but then when you go, it's amazing.
It's really something.
See something different every time.
Exactly. I even posted a film on that on my channel. Yeah. I will be showing a link right now.
The airport, of course, is great.
Because there's never traffic and you are always first to land.
Well, no, I'm saying the airport in the model
Oh,
airport.
in Monland. Okay.
Although we haven't seen SOFIA there yet.
Which is kind of unacceptable, I guess.
It kind of is.
Should file a complaint right here now.
The Millennium Falcon comes in and takes off
right.
and lands every now and then.
Sophia not. I mean,
But not Sophia.
Yep, Garrett is one of the guys, the gentleman running the show, so maybe he watches this and thinks about
Okay.
it. Yep.
So we don't have auto throttles that work, so we're always having to adjust the throttles for the speed. And they're not always lined up, as you can see.
Wow, that's a lot of constant work. Then for you, right?
It can be.
Yeah, the auto throttle system on this was really designed only for the auto land, so on approach it will hold speed. But gives Liz something to do all night.
And that's captain's duty?
Yes, we always have the captain fly every mission. It's just the way we do it. And then we're all rated as captain, and so we just will swap seats every flight.
Alright.
So next time we fly, Jim will be in the left seat and he'll fly, and I'll sit in the right seat and
Alright.
do co-pilot duties.
I have to admit that I really love aircraft still having a flight engineer. Really.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, I thought so.
So this was my first time ever flying with a flight engineer. I'd always flown airplanes that didn't need them. And I wasn't sure at first if I was going to like it, and now I really like it. Yeah, especially with handling the door and the mission systems, I think it's really helpful. Flight engineer has to do a lot of work making sure he maintains the temperature down there and the temperature to the instruments so that they work properly.
1 degree right.
1 right.
It's not just the temperature for the scientists to keep them comfortable, which sometimes they're not, but it doesn't really matter because it's the telescope that matters.
Yes, the TA temperature telescope assembly. The telescope assembly is controlled right here for the temperature. We just keep it mostly full cold. Really, you rarely adjust that, but we do have to adjust the temperatures in zone 2 and 3 occasionally, depending on which instrument's on board.
So that FE panel then would be really totally different as compared to other 747 SPs, I guess.
No, this is actually pretty much the same except for this part. The other normal 747 wouldn't have anything to do with it, obviously a telescope assembly. But now this is standard. This is an extra switch for the telescope assembly. This is on all 747s. Your trim air switch for controlling temperature to the zones. But this is an extra switch that was put on for the telescope, and it's only through number 3 pack. If this pack isn't working, we're not leaving. You can go without one of these packs not working, 1 or 2, but if this one's not working, the flight's canceled.
And then we have this panel to the right side, which is there for opening and closing the door, right?
Yeah, obviously there's only one 747 in the world that has that.
This is the point where somebody usually says, "Are we there yet?"
Yeah.
You haven't seen my National Airlines 747 movie, have you?
No.
It was a running gag there. Are we there yet? Very funny. You mentioned it.
Yeah. Oh, we've got a countdown here. We've got 3,546 nautical miles to go.
Jim's the one who always asks.
Oh yeah, it's usually me.
It's quite something for a round trip.
He's used to fighter sorties that are less than an hour and a half.
Yeah. Why fly for more than about 1.2, 1.3 hours? Should be able to do everything you need to in that amount of time.
Ah, nice.
Yep. That was our deployment to Cologne last year.
All right. Yeah, that was so popular in German media.
Well, we started in Hamburg because the airplane was over there for maintenance. We did some test flying on it, then we flew it down to Cologne.
What we need to do is make sure we're at each turn point within 2 minutes of the planned time so that the astronomers can see the target that they need to see. And then that means taking off on time.
One right.
One right.
If we're early or late, then because of the Earth's rotation, the heading that they're asking for isn't what was planned, and we start drifting off of our planned route.
So if you, for whichever reason, catch 5 minutes delay in takeoff or 10 or whatever, what happens?
Well, our mission planner, I don't know if you heard him in the brief, he had some late takeoff options.
So he'll give you a late takeoff option if we're 2 minutes early or 13 minutes late. That's about all we had on this one.
Thank you.
But it kind of depends on the geometry of the flight. In this case, there weren't too many options. We basically had to take off and go west. If we take off late, we have to intersect our flight plan somewhere along the route where we were supposed to be at that time.
All right.
We can't just take off and fly the route 15 minutes late.
Okay.
Because the stars aren't in the right place.
Scientists would lose valuable time then.
And sometimes the departure gives you enough turns that you could make up some time, but not tonight.
We took off. We were joking about it. We took off maybe 30 seconds later than we wanted to, but we turned a little bit early at the first point, and it all evens out. At one time, there was discussion of electronically connecting the telescope to the autopilot so that they don't even have to tell us 1 degree right. It just flies the airplane so that the telescope is always looking at the star. And that would have taken a lot more engineering work to make that happen, and it's easy enough for us to just fly the right heading. We do have an auto land system, a dual channel autopilot. The airplane can land itself, but it's Cat 2 certified, so we can't do 0-0. We can go down to 100 feet, and if If we break out at 100 feet, we continue, the airplane lands itself. And in Palmdale, that's not all that of a concern, but when we go to New Zealand, where they can get fog and other low weather, it's good to have that capability. A lot of our missions are fairly far south, at least down as far as 60 to 63 degrees, 65 degrees south is about as far as we go. But usually good opportunity to see the southern lights.
Oh, yeah.
We love going to New Zealand. Christchurch has been very welcoming to us, like Cologne was, and like Stuttgart.
Yeah, Cologne would have been more fun if there wasn't a pandemic going on, but it was still a good time. We did a lot of outdoors things because most places, museums and stuff, were not open to go into, but we hiked up to castles and stuff like that.
Good.
Drove around.
The disappointing thing was that the restaurants were closed, so we
all
just
takeout. So
did
much takeout. All these beautiful restaurants, it's all takeout.
So we didn't get a lot
And
of good German food.
About a week after we left,
Did they?
They were scheduled to open the restaurants again.
So we didn't have any schnitzel the whole time we were there.
No, I found some schnitzel somewhere. I think it was a Greek place that sold schnitzel. It wasn't that good.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah, actually, I thought the COVID got worse, and that's why we left a little early, didn't we?
No.
That was Tahiti.
That was Tahiti.
That was Tahiti, that's right. But in Cologne, I don't think it... I thought it got worse there, too, when we were leaving. I guess we didn't leave early, but...
Yeah, when we left, a lot of the restaurants were building awnings and setting up tables outside on the streets, getting ready to seat people. But we missed that. Except for one of our flight engineers, who, when he did his COVID test to depart, he tested positive on one test. He tested negative on the next 4 tests, but they made him stay in quarantine in his room anyway.
No way.
Yeah, he stayed an extra 2 weeks alone.
In his hotel room.
Which gave him probably an extra 28 schnitzels.
Well, I don't know what he ate. He couldn't leave his hotel room, but he was able to order food out, and some of the Germans that we worked with that lived locally, they looked out for him and made sure he had stuff.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
It seems to be a very special employer, NASA. How did you 3 happen to get into this super special flying role?
Well, Liz was in the right seat at the right time, right?
For me, it was totally chance. I was on a commercial flight and ended up running into one of the NASA pilots. I just saw that he was carrying a pilot suitcase and said, "Oh, you must be a pilot," and just started chatting with him, and he told me about this job and told me how to apply, and I thought it sounded like the best thing in the world, and so I applied and eventually got hired. It was pure luck.
And did it turn out to be the best job in the world?
It did. Highlight of my career.
So I was in the U.S. Air Force, and I was approaching the point where I could retire whenever I wanted. And a guy I knew, didn't know him that well, but he was the chief pilot at NASA, at Armstrong where we work, and he sent out an email to everybody he knew that qualified for... They were looking to hire a test pilot to fly fighter aircraft. And so I applied and got hired for that. And then once I was there working, he said, "Okay, well, all our test pilots need to fly more than one aircraft. You need to fly a big airplane." And he said, "Do you want to fly the DC-8 or SOFIA?"
Oh, wow. What a
And I said, "The DC-8, that looks like a lot of fun." But he also needed to get checked out in one of the bigger airplanes, and he decided he wanted to fly the DC-8, so he said, "You're getting checked out in SOFIA."
Was that Nils?
But that was Nils.
One right.
One right.
I'm glad it worked out that way. This has been awesome. And
So
the
I could see
DC-8
you enjoying the DC-8.
The DC-8 was interesting because at the time they were flying low-level routes over Antarctica, measuring the ice and glaciers, and that sounded like fun. But now this has been way better. I've gone all over the world with SOFIA. Been to New Zealand a bunch of times, Germany, Chile recently. I don't want to mention that other island that I didn't get to go to last time.
Have you ever been to Tahiti, by the way?
Hey, that's what we're not talking about.
That's a sore subject. It got canceled right before we were supposed to go.
I was on the last one.
Yeah,
also.
we were all on the last rotation, and the COVID rates cases were going way up, and they decided to end the deployment early before the three of us got to go.
I'd been packed for months. I was so looking forward to it.
I've been there a couple of times, and I think it's a great spot. Should have gone there.
And I'm not even that much into beaches. I'd rather go to New Zealand than Tahiti, really. But I'd never been to Tahiti, so I thought it would be fun. Glad I didn't buy a plane ticket for my wife to
Yeah.
join me.
Oh yeah, I know, but
I had one for my husband.
Did you lose that, or did?
Nope, we got a full refund.
Okay.
The way I got to NASA was there's a flight engineer here. His nickname is Moose, and I flew cargo for Evergreen Airlines for 23 years. Moose was our simulator and flight engineer simulator instructor, and occasionally he would fly for Evergreen, like doing ferry flights. But he wasn't on our seniority list, but he could still fly for us.
one right.
One right.
And I've only been here 3 years. 3 years ago, Moose calls me, and I was actually flying for Sands Aviation. Sands Aviation out of Las Vegas has two VIP. At that time, they had two VIP 747s. Moose knew I was current qualified. He called me and said, "You want to fly for NASA?" And I said, "Sure." And it actually worked out good because Sands picked up Airbus 340.
They're not operating the SPs anymore, or are
Oh
they?
yeah, they lost one in a hurricane down in Lake Charles. The other one is actually in Lake Charles right now, going through a C check. But yeah, that one will be flying, but it is for sale, and I understand somebody's looked at it, but they're not allowed to say who looked at it yet. But yeah, so Moose knew I was current qualified and recommended me, and if Moose recommends you, you get hired.
Good.
I think most of our engineers are Moose recommended.
Yeah.
It's a very small community. The number of 747 flight engineers still flying, so they know each other.
Yeah.
So I'm following someone on Instagram who's going through that test pilot school as a flight engineer. It looks very rigorous, very complete.
Yeah, and they don't have the resources that the military does.
After so much interesting information from the flying side, obviously the whole thing here is about science, isn't it? So I'm very, very happy that I'm able to meet Christian now, representing the science side of life. Christian, hi first of all, and thanks for having us.
Sure, thanks for being with us.
So, what's your role in the whole mission, please?
I'm an instrument scientist. So, instrument scientists, we are the linking piece between the scientists all over the world that propose to observe with SOFIA and the telescope and the instruments. And we prepare the observations, execute the observations, and make sure the observations are carried out in the right way.
And maybe, I mean, I see like there's a number of people and they all have these screens where I don't understand a word and I cannot interpret the picture. So what are the different areas of responsibilities and roles that we have here on board?
Right behind us we have the mission directors, which take care the plane flies in the right direction. Behind those we have the scientists, actually the scientists from the Hawk instrument that we are flying today, and they are checking the data as it's coming in right now to make sure we're observing the right thing. Maybe signal is weaker, maybe signal is stronger than expected. We adapt and make sure we get the maximum return for the science.
Perfect. And now the whole thing here, what's the objective of the mission today, maybe for the understanding of a non-scientist? In the briefing we heard already a little introduction, which was rather scientific. In easy words, what are we trying to achieve today with this flight?
So we are trying to achieve multiple things because we start and land in Palmdale. But one of the big things on today's flight is actually we're observing multiple galaxies, different kind of galaxies. Basically, galaxies similar than our Milky Way or different from our Milky Way. And right now, for example, we are looking at a galaxy with a starburst, so an explosion of stars that is forming in that galaxy right now. By right now, we do of course mean millions of years ago, since the light has started traveling to us. And we try to understand how and why stars are forming in that galaxy. And today we investigate the role of magnetic fields, how magnetic fields contribute and control the formation of stars in those galaxies.
I understand that the great advantage of SOFIA is that we are above the distracting, what is it, humidity in the air?
Humidity in the atmosphere.
In the atmosphere. So why don't we just, you know, wrap SOFIA in a satellite and shoot her into the wherever, into the skies? And
that has been done and that is done, but SOFIA has distinctive advantages. We start and land every day. So the instruments and the technology that we fly can be repaired and upgraded every day. When you if you launch a satellite today, the technology that you fly in the satellite is 5 to 10 years old. Our technology is always up to date, and we can repair and we can recheck it. We need liquid helium to cool our instruments to see the infrared variation, and we can just refuel. That's not possible with a satellite.
All right. Okay. Well, that's a pretty convincing answer. And also, I think I understood that the telescope is the one thing, but you can attach multiple instruments for measuring different things to it. Is that?
Yes, we can change our instruments, and our instruments are big and heavy. The instrument right now has a weight of 600 kilograms, or roughly 1,000 pounds. That is a little bit too heavy for a satellite, so we can maximize our instruments and we change them every couple of weeks. So we can look at things from different angles, learn different things about it. Today we look at a galaxy and investigate the magnet fields. Next week we might look at the same galaxy and investigate the ultraviolet radiation, how it ionizes the gas around it. So we get the complete picture by using different instruments, looking at the universe.
So, in simple words, for me as a simple mind, you have the, in terms of photography, you have the lens permanently installed to the aircraft, and you can change the camera.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah, okay. But I mean, these cameras, they are obviously pretty huge. I assume the lens is everything behind that blue thing there.
That's the telescope. The telescope is our lens, and the instruments are our cameras.
That's what we see up front here.
Up front we see the instrument. Everything you see is the instrument, and the telescope is on the other side of the bulkhead in the stratosphere.
Okay, but this is huge. And if that's what you're changing, I'm asking myself, how are you doing that? 600 kilograms.
It's a process that takes a day.
And it doesn't fit through a door, does it?
It has to fit through the door, otherwise we wouldn't be able to install it in here.
That was my idea, but how do you do that? I mean, it seems like really, really big.
It fits. Maybe some parts come different and some are reassembled, but everything that you see back there has fit through that door. Everything that's not blue. The blue part is the bulkhead of the telescope, but the instrument itself,
wow,
it did come through the door over the last weekend.
So the instruments are specifically designed for utilization on SOFIA, obviously. Yes. So then I would assume that the measure of the instrument is determined by the size of a 747 door, right?
That is exactly right.
That's an amazing detail, actually. thank you very much for having some extra minutes for us back here during the flight. And speaking about thank you for everything, for making this possible with your crew here.
Oh, we are happy to do it.
Thank you.
We do like to share SOFIA whenever we can, and so this was another opportunity to do that.
For how long are you with SOFIA now?
So I've been with SOFIA for 6 years.
6 years, okay. And before that you've been flying 777 with the airline, I think you were mentioning.
Yes. Yes. So I flew for United Airlines for many years. I was a simulator instructor for them, an academic instructor, curriculum designer, while I was a line pilot.
Sorry, what designer?
A curriculum designer.
Curriculum designer, okay, wow.
I was on the team that designed the first advanced qualification program, which was a different approach to type ratings.
All right.
So I flew the 737-300 while I was doing that.
Nice.
And then I went on to fly the 767 and 757, which was a common type rating, and then the 777.
Oh, nice.
Mostly on international flights.
So you're an all Boeing pilot.
Yes.
737, 747, 57, 67, 777. Ah,
Yes.
good. Oh, very nice. Have you flown anything else, I mean, commercially in your life, or was that...
Not commercially, but I started out in the Air Force. So that's where I got my pilot training.
All right.
So I started going through officer training in college, and I graduated with a commission in the Air Force and went on to pilot training from there.
Okay.
I flew T-37s and T-38s, which is what you fly in pilot training, and then I stayed on as a T-38 instructor for 3 years.
Nice.
After that, I flew a T-43 for the Air Force, which was a 737-200 configured for navigation training. So it was actually very similar to SOFIA in that as the pilot, we flew the airplane while the navigator instructors were training new navigators. And so we'd fly on a route while they practiced navigating, and we had 20 miles left and right, of course, so that they could
very similar.
Make their corrections. And then we'd have one big turn at the end and then come back. So about 5-hour missions. It was very similar.
And that was the military designator for Boeing 737-200, you're saying? Or?
Was it? Yes, was a T-43.
So even then probably the classic shape of the... Well, now this one is heavily upgraded, but it's even a classic Boeing of the same more or less age and generation like this one.
Yes, very much, very much. And it actually flies very similarly.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know, they seem to have that same kind of Boeing true, honest flying characteristics.
Okay, nice. And now, I mean, for when SOFIA, should it come to an end later this year, what's your plan B? Do you have any?
Well, I fly another airplane for NASA, a Gulfstream 3.
Wow!
So that was my first non-Boeing aircraft for decades, and so that was an interesting experience to learn to fly. And that uses a pod on the belly of the aircraft to do ground mapping.
What makes it special for you, or is there anything that makes it special for you to fly SOFIA? Or would you really consider it more regular flying job as compared to what you've done in the past?
So it was actually a combination of my Air Force mission flying and airlines. It was really fun to come back to this type of flying where you were accomplishing a mission. You weren't just taking people from point A to point B. I say the biggest difference is that everybody's really happy to be on board SOFIA. It's not always that way in the airlines. You don't always have a lot of happy people. So everyone's very excited to be here. We feel like we're making discoveries that will help our understanding of the universe. So that's exciting. And I always loved the stars, always loved space. I grew up out in the desert, and I just look at the sky every night and wonder. And I was back in the days when Star Trek was new, and I watched Star Trek.
Fantastic.
And just the whole idea of space and what's out there was fascinating to me. So to come back to flying Air Force type missions to being in the desert where I grew up and to looking at the stars just feels like my life came full circle.
Amazing. Amazing. Did you meet Captain Uhura when she visited the aircraft?
I did not. That was before I got here. I would have liked that.
What a pity. Would you be interested in trying to fly an Airbus plane ever?
Oh, what kind of?
An Airbus.
Airbus? Yes, I actually would.
Oh yeah?
So I have been, Boeing my whole career, and I really was glad to fly a 747. But I would love to fly a new kind of airplane and see what Airbus is like. I have a lot of friends that have flown Airbus, and they seem to really enjoy them. So yes, I would like to fly an Airbus. And it's part of wanting to fly a lot of different kinds of airplanes, just seeing what the engineering is like and how the logic is slightly different. Yeah, I would like to do that.
Do you have that, independent of Airbus, do you have that one, Alice in Wonderland dream type of an aircraft where you say, be it a presently operated one or one of the past, once in my lifetime, if I had a chance, I would love to try flying that aircraft. Is there anything like that?
I don't know if I've thought of that. There's always an SR-71, of course.
Wow, that's the first time I saw that. Nice.
But flying a 747 was a big goal of mine. Somehow it just never worked out at United to where that was the right thing for me to bid. So I was very happy to fly a 747. NASA tends to hire very experienced pilots. And I don't know if you've noticed, all of us were, at least I'd say 45 years old and older. Yeah. So they don't really train people up. They look for people that have a background flying a variety of different kinds of airplanes so that they can be adaptable to fly what NASA needs at the time.
Yeah.
And NASA, they don't tend to buy the newest, easiest airplanes, so they rely on experienced pilots instead to adapt to the airplane.
Well, I definitely confirm that's my impression that, we are in the hands of very experienced aviators here. That's nice.
Yes. And they also look for pilots with different backgrounds. So we haven't all followed the same path. We have some pilots that were totally civilian, some that were Navy pilots, heavy pilots, fighter pilots. We had one pilot who had been a lawyer and then flew for the regional airlines and then became a Boeing test pilot and then came to us. So it's really important that we have a variety of backgrounds so that we can get a lot of different approaches to solving problems.
Yeah, nice, super nice. Well, hey, listen, I'm just thankful for all these fantastic impressions here. I don't want to, bother you any longer at this point. I have a little token of appreciation for you, which unfortunately is rather stupid, and I know you're not going to use it, and it's totally fine, but maybe you find a shelf for it. It's just
I will totally use this.
Will you? You don't have to.
That's very sharp. I like it.
Thank you very much for doing this for us in the name of many, many, many people around the globe appreciating what you're doing. Thank you very much, Liz. Thanks a lot. Looking forward to looking over your shoulder during approach and landing again.
All right. Well, thank you for being so easy to work with. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yep. Wow. Now I feel important sitting here.
That's it. Oh yeah. Yeah, don't push any buttons there. No, I'm just kidding.
No worries. Hey Steve, thanks for taking the time for introducing us further into the beautiful world of science here.
Of course, yeah, I'm very happy to do so. It's the stuff that brings me the greatest joy. So
perfect, thank you. Then we are happy if you share a bit of that joy with us. With us dummies, if I may say so, because
no, I don't think that's true at all.
At least, well, for me it is true, so no offense towards you guys. But, well, we already got a bit of a, an overview given by the crew and by Christian about who does roughly what. But I was just looking at the screen up there, and I thought it looked like the result chart of a paintball game or something like that. So
that's right. Yeah. Sometimes we say they look like Rorschach tests, so you can see a lot inside them, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Christian told me it's not, and you would be the right person to tell me all about the value of magnetic photography of magnetic. What is this?
Fantastic. Yeah, I'd be happy to. What we're looking at here is actually a series of gas and dust clouds that are forming brand new stars. So what we're looking at is the very beginning of the next generation of stars and planets in the Milky Way galaxy. So we like to study stars just before they're born, and what we do, SOFIA is actually uniquely suitable to do this, is we study the magnetic fields that are surrounding some of these gassy and dusty clouds. Essentially, there are three things that drive star formation. There's gravity that collapses gas and dust together. It pulls all of these gassy structures together and compactifies them to make stars and planets. There's the collisions between all of these gas and dust particles, which try to work against gravity. So it's this constant battle between gravity and kinetic motion. And then the third component is magnetic fields. And we actually don't know a lot about how magnetic fields influence the birth of stars and planets. So what we're interested in doing with SOFIA is figuring out the influence of magnetic forces on a lot of these clouds that are giving birth to the next generation of stars.
Wow, and how does SOFIA help you with that? I mean, why SOFIA? Why, I don't know.
That's a great question. So as you might tell, we're up in the air right now. We're at about 43,000 feet in the stratosphere. Pretty high up, that's right. And we go up so high because the type of light that SOFIA observes gets absorbed by the Earth's atmosphere, which means that this type of light never makes it to the ground. We cannot observe this from the ground. It's a type of infrared light that these specific star-forming clouds emit. So in order to even see it in the first place, we must get above most of our atmosphere in either a plane like SOFIA or a satellite out in space. But even with all of the satellites in space, SOFIA is unique at what it does because of our beautiful instrumentation here. We're using an instrument called HAWK Plus tonight. HAWK Plus is what's equipped with the right technology to look at magnetic fields.
Okay.
And so this takes a lot of maintenance and a lot of work from engineers on the ground. So the good thing about SOFIA is that we land every morning and we can perform this maintenance and keep these instruments operating, and that's something you can't do with a satellite.
That's pretty convincing.
It's a long commute to go fix anything in space.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Steve, I mean, how long are you with SOFIA?
So I'm actually a lot newer at SOFIA. I just moved out here in December. I've been working at a different telescope in Hawaii for the past 5 years.
Who are you?
I know, it was a tragic place to be, yeah. But I worked on a mountaintop at 14,000 feet where it snows in Hawaii. Very, very cool. But we have very similar instrumentation that looked at different types of light out there. But I just couldn't resist the urge to come into the stratosphere, work with the most cutting edge technology possible, and do complementary studies with everything I've been doing in astronomy for 10 years. So
super nice.
It's a wonderful place to be.
And you're, you're obviously totally passionate about what you're doing. Which
does it show?
Yes, which is lovely. And this is what I always like a lot. When I come to talk to flight crews, which I usually do, I think it's as fascinating to have that in the science world here. So really, my question would be the same that I asked the flight crews: how did you get into this? How did it all start for you, and which was your career path that you took actually brought you here today?
Well, okay. I'm actually from Canada, as my flight suit indicates, and
lovely.
I didn't grow up in a city. I was under dark skies, which means as a kid I really loved watching the stars, figuring out what the constellations are doing, and how to navigate that way. So I grew up with a passion for space, and I originally went to university to be a photographer or to find my way, and I took an astronomy class as an elective and ended up doing pretty okay in the class, and the professor offered me a summer job working in astronomy back in 2008, and so that's how I started. I took that job over the summer, went straight into a physics degree, and became an astronomer after that. So I ended up studying for, in total, about 10 years in university, and graduated with a PhD in 2017.
Wow.
So yeah, I was just completely taken with the idea that we could look at our own cosmic history, where our sun comes from, where our planets come from, and by looking out far away into space, learn something about our own story, which just inspired me to no end, which is why I'm here today.
It does inspire me now, the way you speak about it. It's
fantastic. That's the goal.
It really does. It really does. Super nice. And also such a nice, I mean, guys, we're always speaking about aviation careers here, and I think we have a very good example of it doesn't matter really what the area of interest is, as long as you develop a passion for it and you don't let something obstruct you and you follow that path. That's the way to go, and makes you a happy person, I guess, eh?
Absolutely. I mean, there's challenges along the way. This can be a very high pressure environment, high stakes environment, but that's part of the fun, really, right? When you're up here. So I mean, I would say completely, no matter how you get set back, if you're truly passionate about something and it keeps inspiring you, always reflect on the big picture. Don't get caught in the details on what this specific image is doing. Remember the beauty of what you're doing in your job, and just reflect on that often.
Fascinating, really, really, totally true, I believe. Yeah?
Fantastic.
So, getting back into this specific mission that started last night, I believe, now with Hawk.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
How long will this mission continue, and how will you determine at the end of this mission whether you've achieved your goals and hopes and wishes for it or not?
That is a really fantastic question. So we are on flight number 2 out of 8 flights flying out of Palmdale here in California. And then we're going to fly SOFIA down to Christchurch, New Zealand, and we're going to be flying out of the southern hemisphere for a few weeks there as well. So this is one of the amazing selling points about SOFIA. It's the only telescope you can take to both the northern and southern hemisphere to see all of the constellations in the north and in the south, which is very, very nice. To even get time on the telescope, astronomers from all over the place will propose ideas, and in that proposal they have to tell us exactly what they want to accomplish and why we should observe their science. As you might imagine, with limited time, this can be quite competitive. So we have very well-defined criteria at what issues a mission success for us. So the data that we're taking tonight and throughout this whole mission is going to have a tremendous legacy value for infrared astronomy around the globe. This data specifically right now is going to a large consortium of scientists, tens of astronomers strong right now, and then they'll be able to publish results from this for more than a decade to come because of the unique nature of this data that we're obtaining. So the mission success, we're doing quality assurance checks all the time, looking how the magnetic field looks, seeing if we see something new. So when we watch these images, we're actually the first people in the world to lay our eyes on what SOFIA can see tonight. And so every night is a success in that respect. Yeah.
Well, that so far, I have to say, there was a huge fascination learning more about this crazy technology in here. But I think just you made me understand the real point and value of and meaning of the whole thing. So that's and one detail you were saying like it's basically not that one scientific objective that gets completed over all these days, but there's a lot of scientific submissions, and maybe even there's tonight you're accomplishing one of them or even more.
Yeah, on each science leg that we do. So essentially the telescope is on the left-hand side of our plane. So when we fly in one direction, we can see one area of the sky. We turn the plane physically to look at different objects. And tonight we've turned a few times. We're on leg number 9, I believe. So 9 different science projects, 9 different goals for 9 different consortia have already been accomplished. So that's a tremendous success.
And a different consortia means that scientists, whoever they are, or from a certain group, from certain universities or from any university.
Yeah, so SOFIA time is open, which means anybody can, anybody can apply for SOFIA time. And then we have, it's a double-blind process where we have independent reviewers who look over all the science, and here people like me look over all of the technical details. Generally, to propose at a place like this, you need to have a strong scientific background, a PhD in astronomy, to be able to formulate these things. But yeah, universities from all over America, all over Germany, different parts of the world, coming together to do science. And what's nice is all of this data becomes public for everybody if they ever want to see these images, because everything that's taken on SOFIA eventually does become just public on the internet. So if you're bored, you can go download SOFIA data, look at all these maps and learn about it yourself. Read the papers that scientists put out there and learn about our own cosmic history.
That's absolutely mind-blowing. So that means that if we are accomplishing 9 of these projects tonight, and like 9 groups of scientists somewhere out there in the world must have their sleepless night right now, the big day after whatever months or years of preparation, submission, excitement. Is that true?
Yeah, sometimes we do year-long cycles. So everybody proposes for observations, and then we say, okay, during this year we're going to go try to observe your project. And so we inform them when we're going to be observing their project, when it's scheduled for that night. And then in the morning, all of the work that we're doing here, hopefully they're going to wake up to a nice email wherever they are in the world to say, we got your data, it looks beautiful, you can start to work with it almost right away.
I doubt they will wake up, because I doubt they can sleep that night. But
it is very, very exciting. And like I say, SOFIA is the only telescope on Earth, or above the Earth as we are right now, who does what it does. So without SOFIA, we would have a tremendous gap in infrared astronomy knowledge for at least 15 or 20 years before we build another satellite or another plane to replace that knowledge. So it would be a shockwave around the world in the astronomy community.
And that sounds like it is a nightmare becoming true.
There's definitely some concerns, of funding always from time to time, and it sounds like things are either ramping up or ramping down, but I'm still holding out a lot of hope.
Knock on wood.
I know that the data that we're collecting right now is going to have tremendous value for years to come either way.
Thank you so much for these super enthusiastic insights. Extremely exciting for me.
Well, yeah, I love talking about this stuff, and thanks for coming on board and doing what you do too, because it's really great to get the word out on all of these different careers you can have, because I knew 5-10 years ago even, I never knew I'd be sitting on a plane for my job. I mean, it's like a dream come true. I can't imagine that I get paid to do this. Fantastic.
Super.
Yeah.
Steve,
right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All the best for your further career and all your projects.
I appreciate
Best of
it.
luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you give us the full list of aircraft types that you have worked yourself through?
Okay.
during your career, that would just be awesome. It's not very often that I get the chance to interview a former military pilot.
Okay. So I started out, I didn't go to the Air Force Academy, I went through college, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, which you've probably never heard of, but
Nope.
Reserve Officer Training Program. So I did my Air Force training while going through college and was commissioned as an officer, and then I went to Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas for my initial Air Force pilot training. It's a Euro-NATO program with, I had several German pilots in my class, folks from Denmark, Netherlands, Norway, so an interesting mix. There we flew T-37s and T-38s, and then I graduated and I was assigned to fly the F-111.
F-111, wow.
F-111.
When was that?
Well, it was a few years back. I graduated in 1991.
Oh, okay.
And flew that until about 1995 when they retired the F-111.
I thought so.
Yep.
I thought that they retired a long time ago.
They
so
did.
you just got your chance
Yes.
to. Nice. How fast could they go?
They would go pretty fast. I Mach 1.4 down low, which is actually impressive when you're down at 500 feet or lower.
Wow.
Going that fast. Up high, it could go faster, but we never really had any reason to do that.
Okay.
But we'd see 1,000 knots of ground speed down low, which was always interesting. From there, I went to the F-117, the stealth fighter.
Wow. This, yes, edgy.
Yep. Those are also retired.
Nighthawks?
Yeah.
Is that how they call them?
Yeah, the Nighthawk.
Yeah, okay.
We never really called it that flying it.
Okay.
We usually just called it the Black Jet.
Okay.
Which it was.
In fact, yes.
So I flew those. We also flew T-38s as a companion trainer, so I flew that more. From there, I went to the Air Force Test Pilot School in 1998, where we flew, over the year, you fly about 25 different types of aircraft.
Wow.
A lot of them are just one flight or two flights, just to gain some experience.
But how amazing is that? I mean,
but that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
That's a super privilege.
Yeah. We went and visited the French Test Pilot School. We got to fly a Mirage 3.
Really?
There.
And you just
with an instructor to go along to help me out, because I didn't speak any French, so I couldn't necessarily read all the gauges and lights. But airplane's an airplane.
Yes.
Once you realize that they all fly about the same, and you just need to focus on a few key things like being in the right configuration at the right speed, and you can fly any of them. And so graduated from there and stayed at Edwards and flew F-16s in the F-16 test squadron. Did that for 3 years, flew just about every block or model of the F-16. Then moved back as an instructor at the test pilot school, flying F-16s and the Vista. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Vista F-16.
I think I heard it, but I can't associate anything to it.
It's a variable stability F-16, so you can use the computer to make it fly like anything from a Wright Flyer, which is unstable, to any new experimental jet that you're trying to fly. A lot of X-planes they'll simulate them in the Vista first. And we used it for student training. There were a lot of useful things.
You program whichever aircraft type into it, and the flying attitude, behavior of the aircraft will then be
within reason. But yeah, for the most part, you can make it simulate different aircraft.
That's awesome.
From there, I did my one tour out of the cockpit in Washington D.C. And then I went to Eglin, flew F-16s there, then back to Edwards, and finished out my career flying F-16s. I did have a stint. I went to Afghanistan for 6 months, flying a Global Express business jet.
Okay, well that's different.
With a bunch of electronics in the back.
Early airborne, early warning, whatever. Electronics,
Electronics in the back. That actually was a good experience because I flew with a pilot and a co-pilot, and that was the closest that was the closest to anything like this that I'd ever flown.
What an amazing step this
Yeah.
is then. Yeah.
So then I got hired by NASA to fly F-18s and F-15s and started doing that. Also flew the T-34 with NASA, which is a little propeller-driven plane.
Okay.
And got checked out in this, which again was the biggest difference in airplanes I'd ever flown. It's big, it doesn't respond quickly, you need to anticipate if you need to turn around. Even just taxiing around on the ground, you need to be very careful because you can get yourself into tight spots you can't get out of. You go to turn, nothing happens fast.
Did you program your F-16 Vista?
No, I never programmed it to fly like a 747. But and so I fly this, and I also fly the King Air for NASA, which is a small twin turboprop.
Yeah.
So that's most of the planes I've flown, I guess.
Which is a lot.
Which is a bunch. Yeah.
And how does this lady here behave flying wise? I would assume. I mean, I don't know. Is it like very slow also in the air, or
it's slow? It doesn't fly like a fighter, but unfortunately I don't have any big airplanes really to compare it to.
Yeah.
You can ask Liz those questions because she's flown a bunch of airliners and could tell you. But it seems to be very well suited for what we're doing.
Oh yeah,
flies a long time, gets us up high. That's one of the reasons they picked the SP, because it weighs less than a normal 747, and we've got 40,000 pounds of telescope in the back, so we needed to be able to offset that.
And flying high, the advantage is for getting as much above the mist or humidity.
Water vapor in the atmosphere. Yeah.
Okay.
Even if you can't see it, it's there, and so. And the higher you are, the less water vapor and the less atmosphere you still have to look through with water vapor. So,
okay, I see.
Yes, they would prefer if we were in space, but we can't get there with her.
Which is the highest she can go?
45,100.
Oh, wow.
We go to 43 because our margin between overspeed and stall gets to be very narrow. And so 43 is generally as high as we go.
Okay.
The scientists down below are usually asking throughout the night, can you climb higher? Can you climb higher? And we do at the earliest opportunity.
Okay.
We don't operate efficiently. An airline would never fly like this because they're trying to save gas.
Yeah.
So we would fly at lower altitudes if we were trying. And if we're just going somewhere,
like
ferrying into Germany or New Zealand, we'll fly at 38,000 feet and stay there the whole flight because that's the efficient altitude. But that doesn't get the science, and it's all about the science. This isn't the most exciting flying that we do, but being part of the SOFIA program is what really makes this special. Working with the folks down below, when they make discoveries down there. There's been a couple times I've heard cheering down below.
Really?
When they detected some molecule that they were looking for. Something only a scientist would really appreciate, but when they're that excited about it, it's great. And we've traveled all over the world with it. I've met a lot of people. So, it's been a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
And I'm sure that, at one or the other airport or occasion, there must have been some aviation geeks chasing you.
Wherever we go, we're being followed. We're still getting out of the airplane, and our landing was posted on the internet.
Oh yeah.
And people are talking about it. When we get down to New Zealand, the air traffic controllers, they'll know we're coming. They'll welcome us back. They just know that they know SOFIA. It makes the local papers most of the time. So it's just been a lot of fun to be part of this program.
So it is very special. Yeah?
Yes.
You say F-18 and F-15, so NASA is also flying F-15.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that.
The F-15 is good because it's fast. The F-18, it'll go Mach 1.3 or so. The F-15 will go out to Mach 2 or slightly above. And we'll actually hang experiments on the bottom. It's kind of like a big wind tunnel in the sky. Instead of putting an experiment in a wind tunnel, we just hang it on the F-15 and go Mach 2.
Which you probably could not equal in
Wind
in a
tunnels
wind tunnel?
generally can't go. I don't think they can maintain it that long. There's a few.
Oh yeah.
I'm not an expert on wind tunnels, but we'll get a run 7 or 8 minutes long at least at Mach 2.
Wow.
And we'll go a long ways. Yeah.
Wow. So okay, then now I understand the purpose. So you're basically you're flying a wind tunnel then on these
Yep.
aircraft. Just out of curiosity, I mean, NASA is a governmental organization, obviously, and while this one here is a rather civilian aircraft, obviously the F-15 would not be considered one.
Right.
But I assume they carry a November registration. These
Yes.
aircraft, like
Yep.
a civilian aircraft.
Yes.
So are they operated under the rule of FAA as a civilian aircraft, or how does that work?
Not a straight answer, but NASA can certify our own aircraft, so we certify them for airworthiness.
All right.
And when we're in the restricted airspace by Edwards, we can do whatever we want, basically,
Okay.
within our own rules and processes. When we're outside of the restricted airspace, we need to follow FAA rules.
Very interesting
Yeah.
answer, actually. Yeah. Thank you very much. But it's so, in other words, it's not under military rule.
It's not. No, it doesn't meet military rules per se.
Amazing. But obviously, I mean, I would assume that all of your fighter pilots at NASA have a background in military fighter.
Yes. Yes.
Flying.
Yeah. Not all our pilots on SOFIA and the other aircraft are necessarily military, but on the fighters, yes, you need to have that military experience.
It makes sense. Yes. The viewers during takeoff and some other scenes, they have seen some blurred out things at the horizon when we taxi to the runway. And that's obviously because in Palmdale Airport, it's not only the base of NASA, but it's also like skunk works. I mean, where I think there are, what is that? They do experiments on.
They build a variety of different planes, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, they're building the X-59.
Wow.
I happen to have a patch on.
Wow. We're gonna take a close-up of that one for sure. So, X-59. Tell us about that one.
Okay, so it is we call it a quiet supersonic demonstrator or a low boom flight demonstrator. We've changed the name recently to QUEST, which is an acronym for Quiet Supersonic Technology. Unlike the Concorde, which made a loud sonic boom everywhere it went, we're trying to show that you can build a quiet supersonic airplane.
And it will work?
It will work.
Wow. And you're
will.
part of the team?
I am.
You're gonna fly this
I
thing?
will.
Oh man.
It is being built right now in Palmdale by the Lockheed Skunk Works.
No way.
For NASA. We hope to fly this year.
No way.
Don't quote me on that.
I will. Certainly. Amazing.
They are working hard on it. And yeah, the whole point is just to really demonstrate that it can be done. That you can design an airplane from scratch to have a quiet supersonic signature.
So we got a nice channel here to get the word out to the people. So whatever you want to demonstrate. Okay, guys, I think this is the right moment to create a sort of friendship here. Yeah. Could you just please open this this thing there? Yeah, this side.
Sure. What do you have?
And I got something for you inside there. You see this white thing? Could you grab one,
please?
please?
Boy.
I think now is the moment to create a certain team spirit here, you know?
Okay, I can wear this. I don't really look good in hats.
You do. With that one, you do.
So,
welcome to the team.
Yeah.
No, but this is amazing. This is amazing. So, whenever it's gonna fly, you will be flying.
It'll be the end of this year or hopefully early into next year.
Wow.
Yeah, we've been working on it for several years. Lockheed is quite busy trying to finish it up.
Wow. So somewhere in the hangars there,
yep.
Basically it is existing already in some...
If you Google X-59, you'll see pictures of it.
Wow.
It's not painted yet, so you see a lot of the green metal.
Primer color there.
Yep. But it's
super nice.
It's coming along. We've got simulators running that we're spending a lot of time in right now. simulating how it's going to fly.
Super nice, super nice. I read about it. I wasn't aware it was that advanced already.
Yes.
So, and this is then to pave the way, I think, for mainly civilian use of supersonic.
Yes. Other than demonstrating that it can be done, we then want to fly it over population areas and do surveys of folks on the ground and basically show that if you're this quiet, nobody's going to be disturbed by it, and then petition to have the rules changed.
Wow.
And that would then pave the way for manufacturers to start building supersonic airplanes. They'd have to be quiet, but they would be able to use the technology we've developed.
Wow. I mean, I think the world of NASA is really super, super exciting here, yeah?
It is.
And earlier you were mentioning that we have to get back before sunrise, and I don't get that point. I understand we departed at sunset, so you know, as soon as it gets dark they can focus there. But wouldn't it extend the scientists' time to watch the stars if they just continue until sunrise in the air, and then once the sun is there we land? Why?
So the problem is we've got a very large, highly polished mirror in the back. We don't want the sun to ever hit that mirror. If the door were to stick open,
you're turning into a laser weapon then.
We could damage internal components in the aircraft and the telescope itself. Certainly we don't want to reflect that anywhere on the ground. So we've flown 880 flights. The door has stuck open a few times.
Really?
Mostly early on in flight test. Only once since we've been observing, but for that reason we ensure that we are always going to be on the ground before the sun comes up.
All right, especially when it gets stuck open, then you know you have to. Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's a very interesting answer to this question. Yeah. Really.
So we the pilots aren't very involved in the science that's going on down below, but our job is to make sure that all the people and all the equipment comes back in one piece, so it can be used again.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, which includes the telescope.
Which includes the telescope.
Okay.
Another issue, if the door were to stick open, we do not want to fly through rain or land. We've encountered this in New Zealand a few times where Christchurch and any alternate that we're going to go to is forecast to have rain.
Wow.
We won't fly.
All right.
Because if that door sticks open, we'd have a swimming pool in the back.
And the damage,
who knows how long it would take. So yeah, our job is to look at the big picture and make sure that it's safe to operate, and we're all going to come back and everything's going to work the next time.
Which aircraft type would you want to fly once in your lifetime? But I mean, this is really a stupid question in this context, because
there's a list. There's not just one, but
there is one.
I don't know if there's just one. I probably got a list, but probably the P-51 from World War II.
The P-51.
The P-51.
It should be doable. There should be someone out there who's who could invite Clue for a P-51 ride.
Well, probably if I.
Okay, guys.
If I had some money.
That's awesome.
I could probably get a P-51 ride, but that's one of the ones I'd like to. Because for its day in World War II, it was probably the best fighter of World War II. The F-86 was probably the best fighter of its time.
F-86.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Wow. It's so nice, because usually, you know, people. I would say 50% of the cases the answer would be Concorde. But Concorde would make absolutely no sense in your case.
I'll take the X-59 over the Concorde.
I would.
Because I won't wake sleeping babies with this.
Yes, way better. Super nice. Thank you very much for having a moment for us as well.
Of course, yeah.
We've already been, you know, introduced to a couple of stations and scientists here, and but you have different screens. You're sitting in a different location. I'm sure you're doing something different.
Yes.
What are you doing here?
So here I'm operating the telescope, and these are my cameras. I see in the optical light over here, whereas the science instrument that you've talked to already tonight, I'm sure, sees in the infrared. So when I operate the telescope, that basically means I am making sure that we're pointed exactly where we need to be pointed so that I can set the science instrument up for success. And so when I operate the telescope, at the beginning of what is called the science leg, where the plane turns exactly where I need to turn, I will do the initial acquisition. And so what that means is I see a bunch of stars and their names on my screens, and I make sure the names of the stars are lined up exactly with the actual star themselves. When this is not moving around all crazy, you can see the way that they're supposed to be. And so that's when I acquire and I do my lining up over here, and I can show you that in about a couple of minutes. We're going to get on to the next leg.
Okay.
And that is basically what I do over here as a telescope operator. And then I make sure, as they're observing over here, that nothing is going wrong. The telescope is still tracking what it needs to track on, so it's not like losing itself, you know, kind of in space like that. So that is the basics of what I do over here.
Wow, thank you very much. And I mean, what is this like circular thing there? What does that?
So this is my telescope assembly graphic, TA graphic. And this is basically showing the face of the telescope and how far in this left and right direction over here that it can turn. So the telescope is pretty constrained by the airplane. It can't move a whole lot from left to right. It's only got +3 or -3 degrees.
Okay.
And so what this is showing is the time I have left until what's called a rewind.
Okay.
And basically, as things are moving across the night sky, the telescope has to track them so that we get, you know, a consistent amount of data and everything like that. But it can only go so far until it reaches that edge. And so I have to send a rewind, and that puts the telescope back into the beginning of where it needs to be. So that's what this colorful graphic is showing. These yellow parts are called margins, and that's kind of a warning to let me know that it's very close to the edge. It's not, you know, like hurting anything yet, but I should keep an eye out. And then these red edges right here at the 3 are when it can become an issue and the telescope can't move anymore. And so it really depends on how fast the science object is rotating across the sky and how many times I will need to rotate per leg or whatever.
And how do you actually operate it? I mean, you would expect a joystick or something like that, no, but it all goes digitally, right?
It is. It's all on the computer. I do the physical operations at the beginning of the legs. By this main screen right here is what I focus on. And so this right here, this button tells me I can move to this science position. And so these positions are something that has been created and I have taken already prior to getting on the plane. And so the fact that I've made the positions and now they end up on the plane with like a USB drive and stuff like that, you know, old school stuff. And then I use this main panel right here in order to tell it this is my science position. Like this is the galaxy or star, whatever I want to look at, you need to move here. And so you can see it over here, the cameras will move as the telescope moves and I can watch it that way. And then I use, you know, the rest of this to do a quick and dirty acquisition and kind of make sure everything's lined up. So this is my main panel that I use tonight.
Okay. Amazing. So many figures and numbers and things. How did you get into this? Did you, as a young girl, realize you want to be a telescope operator on an aircraft, or?
Well, it's very unique, so I don't know that I got that specific when I was a kid. But I grew up in Florida on the east coast of the United States, and I grew up pretty close to Kennedy Space Center, which is another NASA center, which is where they launched the space shuttle from in the early 2000s. And so I got to watch the space shuttle launch and come back home quite often, living in South Florida when I was a kid. So that's, I think, what kind of sparked my initial interest in space, and I knew I always wanted to do something with space. And then I went to college and I got my bachelor's degree in astrophysics. And then I graduated in 2020 and I was looking for a full-time job, stumbled across this one. Somehow they called me back and I ended up here.
Wow, lovely. That's a nice story.
Yeah. It's very cool. I'm very lucky to be here.
Yeah, really nice. Super. And how often do you come to fly?
I will fly usually twice a week for 3 to 4 weeks in a row. And I'll do alternating nights. So usually it's a Monday and a Wednesday night, or a Tuesday and a Thursday night. So Sophia the plane flies 4 nights a week, every week pretty much. I personally will fly 2 nights a week for 3 to 4 weeks, depending on the schedule.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
John, thank you very much for having some extra time with me back here.
No problem.
I understand you are constantly busy at the engineers panel, right? So we got a few minutes, and I try to squeeze it to the best of my abilities. What is it that you have to constantly do there at your FE panel?
Well, this time in the flight, I'm at the point where we have to use what's called fuel heat, and it all depends on how cold the fuel is, how cold it is outside, and so right now I'm on like a 10-minute cycle.
Wow.
Usually it would be like a 30-minute cycle, but it's really cold out there tonight. So it's
how cold is it?
I think it was minus 65 degrees.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's extremely cold, in fact.
So my fuel temperature, the engines are like minus 15 degrees, and so I have to get fuel heat on there every 10 minutes.
John, as I mentioned before, I'm always, if there is a flight engineer on board, I know I'm on a classic airplane, and this is what I like the most. So I'm particularly happy to see you here being part of the crew. For how many years are you flight engineer now?
Well, I've only been with NASA for 3 years. I flew 747s for the airlines, a company called Evergreen International, for 23 years. I've got about 16,000 hours on the 747. I started in the Air Force on C5s. That's my flight engineer experience mostly. I flew 747s for Las Vegas Sands, a casino in Las Vegas called Sands. They have 2 747s. Well, they have one left. One of them got destroyed in a hurricane. But when I was flying for them, they had 2 747s SPs. We flew high rollers all over the world and celebrities, and that was pretty interesting also. So, and I've been here, like I said, for 3 years, a little over 3 years.
And you know, when I'm speaking with pilots, a very common question of mine is, you know, out there's a lot of young people who are looking at a career in aviation. Promote your profession. Now I think if you would promote the profession of a flight engineer, it would be a little bit unfair towards the young viewers, right?
It's pretty much a dying career field. The Air Force, they still have a few positions in the U.S. Air Force, but civilian-wise,
not much left.
No, it's not going to happen.
But your background before you became flight engineer is probably an engineering one anyway, isn't it?
Yes, we call maintenance. I started in the military as maintenance, and that was a requirement before you can move up to cross-train to a flight engineer.
And I think that's still a good recommendation for your career paths, guys, right?
Yes, because I'm not a pilot. I have no pilot license at all.
Yep.
I mean, I've flown a little bit, but I have no license.
Okay.
So if something happens to those 2 pilots up there, we're in big trouble. Don't depend on me.
Well, you could have told me after the flight, but that's fine.
I'll get us close to the airport.
Okay. At least.
I promise.
At least. No, that's good. And how did you get into aviation? I mean, was it just?
Well, my father was a pilot.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's also he was in the Air Force. He flew B-29s in the Air Force as a pilot.
B-29s.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then he got out and he worked for an airline called Capital International.
I know that one.
It was a charter, more or less charter cargo passenger worldwide. And basically, I grew up, seeing him leave, come home, and when I joined the military, I knew I was eventually. My eyes kind of prevented me from ever becoming a pilot.
All right.
Yeah, in the military, and but I was perfectly happy to be a flight engineer. But that's, if you want to talk about how I got started, I would say from my father.
Okay.
My older brother, he's deceased. He was a helicopter pilot. My younger brother's a pilot. My son's a pilot.
Really?
Yeah, I'm the only one here. I'm the only one who's never been in an airplane by himself.
Which aircraft is your son flying?
Oh, well, he flies Black Hawks for the Army National Guard helicopters.
Cool.
But he also flies little commuter jets for American Airlines. It's actually called Piedmont out of Philadelphia.
Wow,
so
nice.
Those CRJ 175s or 145s, I forgot what it is, but just a little commuter jet.
ERJ, I guess. The Embraer.
Yeah, you know, I'm not even sure. I call them Barbie jets. Doesn't have a flight engineer. Me and my son, we're always, you pilots. That's fine. It's good. I admire everything he's done. He's done real well.
Great. How old is he?
He's 31.
Wow, very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
My youngest.
Well, and he will probably experience at least towards the end of his career commercial aircraft that will fly with single pilots, right? Yeah. So the evolution will likely continue.
I think so.
Beyond flight engineers, which we hardly ever see.
I know. I feel so. I can't tell you how fortunate I feel to have this job. It's a dream for me, and I'm very happy to be here.
Very, very sad to hear, though, that.
Yes, yeah, it's but I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at going to New Zealand.
Yeah.
I'm looking at flying in maybe the end of August and September. I'm looking forward to that.
And you never know how life turns out. I mean, Pratt & Whitney, Canada, or whatever. You know, I think, although flight engineers are a dying breed, I think you're like really a precious resource because there's not many of you left at the same time. So I think there should be good opportunities to keep you busy beyond.
Well, and I'm going to be 67 years old, so it's not a big deal for me. I kind of feel sorry for some of the younger. We have the younger engineer here, and I don't know what he's going to do. I'm not really sure, but I feel sorry for the younger people. For me, I feel sorry just for myself because I love the job, but that's okay.
That's a nice way to put it.
I would have done this job for free. That's how much I know. Well, I wouldn't say that, but I can say it now.
Yeah.
When I was first hired, I wouldn't say that.
So once the film is released, this may probably already be after the retirement of SOFIA. So that's safe thing then. Yeah.
I mean, I work with. I mean, you just interviewed Clue.
Yeah.
I mean, I work with some of the most qualified, experienced pilots, and it's just so easy. Because at Evergreen, we always had a constant turnover. So you're flying flying with a first officer who basically, I mean, you constantly have to watch them, and so here it's really easy for me.
High level.
It's really been nice.
Yeah, nice. Even I could notice that during the day, highest degree of professionalism with I think a very nice interpersonal. Soft skill element to it as well. I like that.
Yeah.
High level, professionalism, but good sense of humor where it fits. Very nice combination.
It really is. I really enjoy it. So, going to enjoy the next few months and go from there.
John, what's happening when the fuel freezes in our engines here?
Well, obviously, I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. But
glad to hear, because I don't want to keep you busy for too long. I mean, I'm glad to speak with you.
Well, the good thing is, before there's a light that will come on the panel, and hopefully somebody up there would see it. It's called an icing light.
Oh, good.
And that would give me time to get the fuel heat on. But if for some reason somebody didn't see the icing light and get the fuel heat on, you have your fuel control when your fuel pump could freeze up, your inlet filter. It could actually prevent fuel from getting to the engines.
So I don't want to keep you too busy.
It could be a problem.
Yes, somewhere over the middle of the Pacific. Yeah.
But they're watching for me up there. I did fuel heat right before I came back here.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, no, that's excellent. So, this flight engineer panel that we've seen there already during takeoff. For me, if I look at that for too long, I start getting dizzy and I may eventually faint because it's so complex. What the heck is all that?
Well, it looks complex, but you got to remember there's kind of four of everything. You got four engines, so you got four generators and all those switches that go with the generators, and you got four hydraulic systems and all those switches. So it looks like a lot, and once you get your scan down, it's just second nature. You just know what you're looking at, and experience. You know, once you do it, it's really not. Now Sofia's a little different. I mean, I flew cargo, and that was real easy. It's a little different here because obviously I got to open the door.
Yeah.
Work with the mission director on that, and also I've got to work with mission director on cabin temperatures down there certain times. It's got to be maintained, and so it's a lot different than a regular 747 being on SOFIA, but I love it. You know, it keeps you busy. You know, you never get bored, you never get tired.
What about this? I mean, the science aspect. I found it interesting during the mission briefing that you actually really get this. I think quite enthusiastic scientists brief on what they are trying to research during this mission. I mean, how's that for you?
Well, you've done something I've never done. I have never been to a mission briefing because as soon as we're done the crew briefing, I come to the airplane.
Absolutely.
So you know more about the mission briefing than I do.
I even explained the viewers before. Okay. I should edit that out. I'm not too sure if I leave it in. Probably I do.
I've never been to a mission briefing yet. So,
but still, the science aspect to it, and the fact, do you have any, do you relate to that as well? Is that also interesting for you, or are you not really?
It's very interesting to me, although I don't relate to it as much as some of these guys. I read the reports after every flight. There's the mission directors put out a report.
Oh yeah.
And I read these reports and try to. And I understand, I don't know, maybe 10% of it, but it's very. And I go down and watch them, for 5 or 10 minutes if I have the time to go walk the main deck, and it's really interesting. It's just, to be honest with you, I really don't understand a lot of it. I wish I did, but I don't. And like I said, I've only been here 3 years, so I think that would take a few more years for me to understand what those guys are doing, guys and girls are doing.
Even the language they use it's on.
But I love watching them though because it's just so interesting. But
yeah,
and it's kind of the same for them. They come up and watch us, and that's interesting for them. But
yep.
It's something different.
Yeah, good comparison. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
hey John, now that you that you are so polite and supportive with me and the viewers and giving us such nice insights here all the way, I got a little. Just stretch out. You got souvenir for you.
AirClips.
Now
yes. And it's adjustable too because I got a fat head.
Yeah, so do I. It is adjustable because of my fat head.
I'll adjust it later, but thank you very much. That's beautiful.
Thank you very much.
And I have seen some the Geo Sky. You did the Geo Sky.
You've seen that?
Yes, I've seen that.
Really, John? Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I don't. I always have these freezing engines.
They're watching for me.
No, I'm just kidding. I know. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And then I'm looking forward to watch you during the approach and landing again up front.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. So it's just a few minutes before top of descent, and we are back for landing. So I don't want to bother you anymore. Just maybe one last question, if I may. How did the flight go for you?
It was a very smooth and uneventful flight, and that is the best kind.
Yep. It seemed like it went fairly quickly.
I think that's because of you guys made it go quickly.
Thank you. I hope in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Kept us busy. Gave us something to do. And you'll see we get a little busy once they're done with science and we get ready to descend. Because of the telescope, we actually have limits on our descent rate. They don't want us to descend basically because of cooling or heating, warming, moisture. We have limits on our descent rate. Once we're below 18,000, we're limited to 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet per minute, and then below 10,000, it's 1,500 feet per minute, which is a little bit of a restriction compared to most other airplanes. And so a lot of times we get close to the field and we're still too high and we're really scrambling to get down.
Okay. And at which point will you close the telescope?
Actually, as soon as we start our turn. They're going to
About
close
1
the
minute.
telescope. I'm going to turn the thunderstorm lights out. Are you guys ready?
Ready.
Coming out.
Okay, standing by for LFD in the lower limit. URD seal has been verified deflated. We are at our lower limit. Step 2, rotary switch if in track to open.
I am in open.
I see open, waiting 5.
You gonna just correct back to course or do you want to direct to?
I'm going to correct back.
Rotary switch to close.
I am enclosed. I see movement.
Good movement.
Door light is out. Looks like movement stopped.
I show fully closed, movement stopped, and CDDS enabled, disable switch to disable.
I'm in disabled.
I see disabled. Inflating the seal downstairs, and then we'll get the breakers. Checklist complete.
Thank you.
I'm going to go mag.
Oh, still. Okay, I'm in mag as well.
Okay, steady heading 410, ready for caging.
Just a minute. It's just rolling back.
Okay.
And now wings level.
Copy. Flight deck mission, TA caged, ready for descent.
Copy, thank you.
Okay, gonna make a radio change. LA Center, good morning. NASA 747 Heavy Flight Level 410, Block 430, ready to start our descent.
Hey, NASA 747 Los Angeles Center, good morning. Descent and maintain flight level 310.
Down to 310, NASA 747. We go 31.
I see 310. And we are starting our descent.
Descent check.
Descent check, please. Thank you.
FMS heading.
In mag.
Ignition is flight start. Fuel panel boost pumps are on. Number 1 and 4. Cross feeds are open. Circuit breakers have been checked. PFDs, MFDs, and nav.
Set for the approach.
Set for the approach. Airspeed bugs.
For gross weight 410, flaps 30, 130 ref, 135 target set.
Okay, for 410 gross weight, 30 flap approach, 130 rep, 135 target set.
Thrust is 1.42, go around E%.
1.42, go around E%.
Approach minimums.
Set.
Auto brakes.
And they're on min.
Approach briefing.
Complete unless there are any questions.
Understood. Pressurization is set for landing. Standing by transmission.
Thank you.
Easily have 1-1 by Edwards. The question is when they'll let you go lower than that.
Yeah.
So for our guests, Palmdale is not open as we come back and land at this hour. So we actually use pilot-activated lighting to turn the lights on ourselves, and we make calls in the blind and land uncontrolled. Our maintenance crew knows we're coming, and they actually will go out and sweep the runway and make sure there's nothing on it. We're cleared to do that.
All landing logo lights.
On.
And mission, are you ready for landing?
We've got one in the bathroom, almost there.
Okay. We'll stand by there then.
Flight deck mission, we are ready for landing on the main deck.
Thank you. Seatbelts on?
You can turn it on.
No. Where am I? There. Put the right ones in the dark here.
All right, descent approach checklist complete.
Thank you. One to go.
Okay.
Master 747 is in the pilot's discretion to maintain 5,000.
Pilot's discretion to 5,000 is, of course.
Pilot's discretion 5,000.
It's actually giving us plenty of time.
Palmdale altimeter is 2989er. Winds are 180 at niner.
2989, that's the 747.
2989, I copy winds 180. Okay, flaps 1, please.
Flaps coming on.
So we're 250
Green
for
light.
below 10, and I'm got the descent rate of 1500.
Copy. Flaps 1, good to 170.
Thank you. Starting to turn toward ether.
Oh, chattering in the...
Yep.
NASA 747 Heavy cleared direct ether across ether at 5,000, cleared hours from 925 approach.
NASA 747 Heavy copy, clear direct ether, cross ether, at or above 5,000, cleared ILS 2,000 approach.
FedEx 1417 Heavy, contact SoCal approach 128.75.
Flaps 5.
Flaps 25. Green line.
Thank you. We're good down to 167 knots.
Okay. Pressing go.
Time to go.
$2,500.
Altitude hold, 5,000.
To 209, the intercept heading out of.
Yeah, you can go ahead and put that now if you want. And I'll plan to intercept the glide slope from 5,000.
About 4 to I'll cancel.
Okay.
As soon as you make the turn, I'll also try to get the lights on.
Flaps 10.
Good. Flaps go to 10.
Go down to 156.
Thanks.
Going to heading.
Short range now.
Short range nav. And approach.
So we get your lights. They're actually already on.
Okay, I got him.
So that should be medium.
I'm taking it off autopilot. I see it. Flaps 20.
Speed's good. Flaps good. 20.
Gear down. Speed brakes are armed. Landing checklist.
Landing gear.
Down green light.
Speed brakes.
Armed. Flaps 30.
Flaps tracking 30.
Runway turn off lights.
On.
Flaps.
30 plane 30 indicated green light.
Hydraulics are normal. Brake pressure.
Check speed.
Check.
before landing checklist complete.
Thank you. We'll do 5,000 for missed approach.
Josh approach NASA 747 is approaching Florida. I'd like to cancel at this time.
NASA 747 Heavy, roger. IFR cancellation received. And radar services terminated. Frequency change for the Squawk 3 bar.
Okay. NASA 747. Palmdale traffic, NASA 747 Heavy. Final approach fix. Runway 25. Landing Palmdale. Palmdale traffic, NASA 747 Heavy's final approach fix. Landing runway 25. Palmdale. Crosswind's actually increasing a little as you get lower.
It's from the same direction, which is unusual.
About 8 knots right across so far. Traffic NASA 747 Heavy landing runway 25 Palmdale. Palmdale traffic NASA 747 Heavy landing runway 25 Palmdale. Yeah, speed on course on both.
Approaching minimums.
Land sight landing.
Minimums. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Spoiler are extended.
About 110 knots.
Coming on the brakes. I'll go down to the next.
Auto brakes are off.
Yeah, they didn't really seem like they were doing much. You got 60 knots.
Body gear steering's armed.
Thank you.
All right, we got 15. There's 10. Say down at 54.
After landing checklist, please.
After landing check. Fuel at touchdown was 27.5.
Thank you.
Palmdale traffic, NASA 747 Heavies, off runway 25 at hotel, taxiing down the LZ. Palmdale traffic, NASA 747 Heavy, off runway 25 at hotel, taxiing down the LZ. Clear, right?
After landing check, body gear steering is already armed. Speed brakes.
Down.
Reverser lights were not used. Flaps. They're moving.
Tracking a 5.
Looks like they're 5.
Flaps are 5.
Stabilizer trim.
6.
TCAS.
Standby.
Weather radar.
Off.
Off.
Landing lights, runway turn off lights. Just leave them on.
Yeah, I got the runway turn off lights off.
Ignition is off. Pack valves are as required. Number 3 is open. Outflow valves are checked open. APU is started. ADPs 1 and 4 are in continuous, and engines after 5 minutes. 1 and 4 shut down.
2 more minutes to go.
Yep, I've got a timer on that.
Brakes are even, top of the green.
Okay, FE, you good for me to
I'm good.
Kill 1 and 4?
1 and 4, please.
Okay, 1 and 4 are cut off. Fuel flows are 0.
After landing checklist complete.
Thank you.
Palmdale traffic now 747 heavy crossing runway 25 at Papa. Palmdale traffic now 747 heavy crossing runway 25 at Papa. Final and the runway both look clear.
I concur. We got all our landing lights on. Good.
Yep.
Time for lights.
Sorry. Clear right. Palmdale traffic now 747 heavy taxiing Papa Echo Sierra. Palmdale traffic now 747 heavy taxiing Papa Echo Sierra. And NASA 747 Heavies taxiing on Sierra, crossing 22 to Park NASA.
Roger, 747 Heavy. We're going to have traffic on taxiway Alpha out of your area.
Okay.
Is that okay, sir?
That's affirmative. We're about to cross 22 and then we'll be on Sierra to the NASA compound.
Thank you, sir.
You couldn't see us?
Palmdale traffic now 747 Heavy crossing runway 22 at Sierra.
Final's clear, runway's clear.
Clear right. Palmdale traffic now 747 Heavy crossing runway 22 at Sierra. Okay, 7 knots, clear right.
Thank you. Made it through the slalom course.
Yep. Still got to get around the big pole. Yeah, see your guy with the wands.
I got him.
Bring the flaps down, you can watch John.
Got it.
Tracking to 10.
Yeah, it's dropping to a little bit above 6.4 right now.
Coming to 20.
It's at almost 6.
Coming to 30. Clear right.
Yeah, it's at 6.5, so it's below the green. Maybe it just requires a service, and they can look for a small leak. It's obviously not going to be a very big leak.
I think our ground speed is off. We're going to have several knots when we shut down. Showing 10 now. Suppose I could have gotten those off sooner. Yeah, stopped with 4 knots of ground speed.
Yeah, parking brake is set. Pressure is normal. Parking checklist, please.
Park check. You should set pressure normal. Seatbelt sign.
Off.
Flap.
Storm lights coming on.
Flaps.
Down.
Mission, are you ready for a power transfer?
Stand by on power transfer.
Stand by.
So did we end up with a couple of write-ups on the way back in? Is that
Well,
what's
when I
happening?
turned the ADP off, it came back up a little from 6.5 to just into the green now.
Now ground speed 0.
FE mission ready, power transfer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Power transfer complete.
Copy.
APU
That
is
was
on.
smooth.
APU bleed air is as required. Engines.
Okay, 2 and 3 cut off.
Tops are in.
Thank
Copy.
you. Fuel flow 0.
Beacons.
Off.
Anti-ice.
Off.
Emergency exit lights.
Off.
Probe heat.
Off.
Window heat.
Off.
Stand by. Pack valves 1 and 2 are closed. 3 is on. Thrust levers.
Checked forward.
PFDs and MFD screens.
And mine are off.
Off.
Transponder.
It is standby.
RTU radios.
Off.
ADPs are off. Fuel pumps and valves are off and closed. Galley power coming off. Radio master bus switches.
Off.
IRS switches.
Off.
Standby power switch is off. ESIS battery switch is disarmed. Flight deck lights. And runway turn-off lights.
My lights are all off.
Off.
Runway turn-off lights are off.
Main deck doors.
Are in the process of being disarmed. Stand by.
Okay. You guys can get your oxygen masks and regulators while you're up there, I guess.
Mine stowed 100%.
Stowed 100%.
And oxygen valve, I'll get that later. Oh, by the way, mine's still 100% off. Chocks.
They are in.
Parking brake.
Released.
So we're standing by main deck doors. And I'll clean everything else up in.
Main deck doors disarmed.
Thank you. And parking checklist complete.
All right. Thank you guys very much. Good flight.
Air-Clips.com.